All right, what's going on? It's John V back at Live Tribal Podcast. Missing some of my compadres, but I'm here with Taylor Clark.
What's going on? Glad to be here.
I don't have the applause things right now, but I'll just do it with my hands. Uh, so yeah, I mean, took a little break, little hiatus. But now we're back. We have a great guest, and Taylor's here, fresh off her most recent finals appearance.
It's all in a day's work, you know.
All in a day's work. She just played. What was it?
Bloomington Alumni Mini.
Bloomington Alumni Millie. I mean, she made it to the finals because I wasn't there. You know, I would have got her ass eliminated
Yeah, you would have
ASAP.
tried, but it's okay.
So, yeah, I mean, it's spooky season. So, got the spooky skulls right here. What else is going on? Anything else going on LRG wise?
It's the season to wait for all the episodes to come out. I know that.
Facts. Waiting for a lot of episodes. Yeah, and I mean, we don't have our intro today. We're a little falling behind maintenance wise, but we're gonna make this do what it do. I think we got a great guest. You know, I call her my little sister, even though no, actually I am telling her. Yeah, my little sister is on this, and this is gonna be a great episode. We got some good topics to talk about, and without further ado, let's bring Zimzima, who got the keys to my Beamer, out. Let me add to stage. All right.
We're doing this again. Hi, you guys. What is up? It's your girl, Brady. I'm excited to be here and to spill some tea for sure.
Spill tea. Not on the carpet, though,
Sure.
because nobody's wants to clean it up. All right. So, I mean, let's start off. I mean, I feel like most people watching this do know who you are, but for the people who might just stumble upon it or friends of friends, so who is Brady? Let's start off with that.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Brady. I'm from Boston. I'm 21. I'm a huge reality TV connoisseur, like literally the most obscure reality shows you could name it. I probably have seen it. I've been playing like online Instagram reality TV games since I was like 11 years old with like Total Drama Island. And then from there, it just segued into this love for competition and reality TV. And then about 2-3 years ago, I started doing live reality games, and that's kind of where I am now.
So, Brady, did you start off like I asked every guest this? Did you start off in the org community, or did you do LRG and then go to org? Because I started with LRGs and didn't know it was a whole org mini world until after I did my first live show. How about you?
So this is actually really interesting. A lot of people don't know this about me. Like I was like one of the OG org players. Like when Instagram first got started up, like I was there playing reality games. So I'm like kind of like a pioneer, I guess, of orgs technically, at least within the Instagram community. But yeah, so I've been there for a minute. It all started with that because I was so young. I couldn't have played LRGs when I was like 10. I would have gotten like beaten up or something or like died of starvation.
What was the first so what was the org you played? Was it like Survivor based? Was it its own game? Like what was it?
So it was based off the show Total Drama Island. So it's like the cartoon version of Survivor on Cartoon Network. So that initially was what initiated my love for reality TV. That and a show called Fetch with Rough Man on PBS. But so that started it. So I did those for a couple years until I found out what Survivor was a couple years later.
Okay.
Were they like live things or was it like text based?
It was all text based. Like we each got like assigned like a character from the show, and we like played as that character. It was kind of fun actually. In retrospect, it was like a big part of my childhood. Like I used to sneak onto my iPod because we had like limited screen time when I was younger. So I always used to like grab my iPod secretly and try and like do the challenges so they didn't vote me out.
Oh, it's like so. Is it basically like an alias game? Like people didn't know you were like a little kid playing these games.
No, exactly. Like we all had like Instagram accounts. And mine was like Courtney Stan 104 or something like that. So just completely like anonymous. I was under like a fake account, like a fan page almost for like my favorite character.
So wait, you said you were based off a character. So did you have like a certain role, like you knew when you were going to get eliminated, or did you have like certain like advantages because you were that character, or it was just a regular org and you just were the character's name or something?
Yeah, it's basically that it's a regular org. You just like play as a character because a lot of the people who played those were like on the younger side between like I'd say like 11 to like 15. So a lot of people like didn't use like their real face or account just for like safety purposes more than anything. So we all just played under like one of the, like the characters, but there was no like association with like the real show or like placements or anything like that.
Okay. All right, so I'll bring us to the next question. So I played two different format games with you. I played Survivor and I played a challenge game with you. Which one do you prefer?
That's so hard because I feel like they're so different. Personally, I feel like I thrive in Survivor more than I thrive in the challenge, because I feel like the challenge is a lot more like circumstantial and luck based, and I feel like Survivor, like if you get voted out, at least for the most part, unless there's like an idol or whatever, like it's your own fault basically. Like your fate is in your own hands. With Survivor, more so than I feel like with a challenge, because you could easily get like screwed due to some stupid like twist that they throw in one round in the challenge. But I think that they are so different. But like I've loved Survivor before anything else, so Survivor's always just been my go-to. But in terms of like games, like me playing Survivor, me playing the challenge, like I couldn't pick which game I liked better in terms of like the actual like players and like production. Like I loved both of them equally.
Okay. So which one do you hate more? A straight vote in Survivor or a straight vote in the challenge?
Like a straight vote?
A straight vote, like someone just says, "Oh, I'm just gonna say Brady for no reason." Which one do you fear more? When they do that in a Survivor game, or like when the house just randomly someone's just, "Oh, I'm gonna just vote Brady just to vote her."
Okay, this is actually interesting, because I think for me, like what I would hate more is like a straight vote in the challenge, because I feel like that could just easily get you sent in. But also, if you straight vote in Survivor and it works out to your favor, you can easily just claim that as a move and say it's intentional, because that's what I would have done if I was in a final tribal council. I would have lied my ass off and I would have said that that was intentional. So I feel like there's more that you can do with a straight vote in Survivor, and I feel like it's easier to do damage control, because you're probably pissing off one person, where if you throw a vote in like the challenge setting, you're probably pissing off more people.
Yeah, I can see that. So I'm thinking Survivor. So give me your best and worst ally from both games.
Okay, that's actually interesting. I feel like I don't have like, I feel like my best ally, like in the challenge in general, I feel like would just be like the exterminators as a whole, because I feel like I can't say anything about season 18, but I will say that there were a couple people that I would consider really good allies in that season. But for season 15, I would say the exterminators, and then for Bloomington, I would probably say Drew had my back the most, but he was also
husband Tyler before the divorce.
well, I mean, hey, like I'm a loyal player for the most part. I try and be as like loyal as I can. He did me dirty. I love that man, but be fucking for real, for no reason. For no reason.
I think that's the most iconic shit ever. What was that, chapter 9? That shit would forever live in my head rent free. Like
That's a great episode.
that episode should have won fucking episode of the year. I mean, but that episode is just fucking hilarious. That you wrote my name down. He's like, yeah, but you didn't go home. And then just every episode after that, where Tyler's really trying to save you, but you're just not having it anymore. And it's like me and Drew being shady as fuck, like trying to stir shit, and Tyler just taking the heat each time. That shit is so funny. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was just pissed. I don't know. I'm like I wouldn't say like actually, I would say I'm relatively like an emotional player. Like if someone screws me, like I just don't see like, I also try and be real as fuck. Like I'm not gonna like, even though this hurts my game and I need to work on this, like I don't, for me personally, I can't just like put on a smile and be like, oh, it's okay. Like I understand. Like, no, like I'm not gonna fake it. Like I'm gonna be upset at you. I'm gonna be, and they can take that out as they want. They can take that as me being real, and a lot of other people maybe around me not being as genuine, or they can just take that as, oh, I can't work with her anymore. She needs to go. So I think that is something I need to work on in Survivor games, because I wear my emotions on my face, and like I'm very vocal about it. I don't like hide it or sugarcoat it. So that's something I need to work on. But yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like when people like get targeted in Survivor as a move and like it doesn't work, even the people who like went for you are gonna like have a hard time trusting you, because they're gonna always in the back of their mind be thinking like, oh, what if she comes for me now? Like I feel like it burns both ways. It's so hard to just like forget about it.
Yeah, because you're always like, oh, she wants her lick back, or even if you're like, nah, I'm really not coming for you, you might get your lick back accidentally, or like just circumstantially, like, all right, maybe, oh, I should eliminate them now because their guards are down. So that is a harder bridge, where I feel like in the challenge is like, lines are drawn pretty, I think, because the challenge has, you got players who come back season from season and they take what happened last season, which I think in a Survivor game is like, I could have done you wrong, you done me wrong, but I'll play the next season and we might have to be each other's number ones just because of the dynamic.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think there was another question I wanted to ask about
Wait, we didn't get to find out worst ally.
Oh
did we?
yeah, worst ally.
But is your worst ally an ally, or is that your best enemy?
No, best enemy. So like, not someone that's your like enemy that you're going for. Someone who is your ally, but just like they did nothing to help your game, and they did everything to ruin your game. Whereas like, I'm trying to save you type thing. I'm telling you you're the vote, and then you run around and you tell everybody, I heard I'm the vote. I heard from Brady's, and they just like fuck your shit up. Has you ever had anybody who was like, I guess, a stupid ally that fucks you over?
I think Drew fucked me over a lot for no reason, honestly. Like, I was a number for him the entire time, and he kept throwing me under the bus. And I was just like, dude, like, you're showing other people that you're willing to throw your closest ally under the bus. Like, that doesn't make other people want to work with you. I just didn't see how that was smart. And he kept trying to do it to me. I had his back through and through. Would I have cut him eventually? Yeah, but I would have been like, hey, like, now it's like the lines are drawn. Like, we need to like go our own way at like final 5.
Yeah.
But so he's up there. You're up there too, John, because you rogue voted me at that Danny vote for no fucking reason. Literally no reason.
There was a reason.
I
was like, I'm not sure what Danny is doing. And I'm like, I feel like Danny might throw a vote on me. I need to tie this shit up with at least 2 other people. I was worried.
But why her?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
She's not going to suspect it's me. So I'm like, just going to go on to Drew or someone else. And I let her argue with Tyler for 3 rounds. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're lucky I didn't find out, because I feel like if I did, that would have been like bad for you. I would have like made sure you went home. I would have taken you out with me. I would have made up some crazy lie if I found out that was you, because I feel like with at least with our relationship, like we knew each other before that game, whereas Tyler, I came in and I met him, so I would have been like more burned by that. Or I wasn't really, because I get it was the game, but like I don't know, that was not smart. I feel like you should have threw it on somebody. Actually, it was smart, but it's not. You know, it worked out, so it was smart. But if it didn't work out, that would have been really bad for you.
I think also another thing in my head was you and Rachel were so gung-ho of like, you can't have each other the next round. Like, oh, I got her to get her out. So I was like, this might just blow back on Rachel. And I was like, that's fine, because she's always the backup vote anyway in my mind. So I was like, it's gonna just put more heat on Rachel. So fuck it. I think it's time for the wheel before we get into like some deeper questions.
Oh shit. Okay. Watch
All
it
right.
be shit.
All right. So I hope the shit spins well. All right, what did it go on? We're gonna spin it again.
Was it shot?
Yeah. LRG pet peeve. So we'll all give one. It doesn't have to just be about a game or player. It could just be like a situation. I'll start off. My LRG pet peeve is I hate games that don't allow you to bring multiple socks. Because I don't like playing when it rains, like Bloomington. It rained really hard for like a day and a half, and we only had like 2 pair of socks.
That's not a rule. You can bring more socks.
No, some games don't let you though.
But Bloomington, you can.
Well, Can You Survive? I know couldn't, and I hated it my whole life. I was just damn
wet socks,
wet ass, wet balls. It was a wet show. You go next.
For me. I would say I don't think this has necessarily happened to me unless I forgot about it, but probably just like being swap screwed, because it's like you didn't do anything besides a random draw and some people go home because of that. Like that sucks. I can't recall if that's happened to me. I don't think it has yet, thank God, but I know like some people like consistently that happens to them like several games in a row, and I would be so mad, like traveling somewhere and you could just get swap screwed again and again.
Yeah. Or you could get pizza and be inside Casey's house if you're on the yellow tribe. That was
I know. Hell.
You poor thing.
Yeah, it was stressful.
I'm trying to think. I feel like mine would be like mine's like not directly like correlated to I mean, I guess it is. There isn't like a specific, actually there is low-key a couple in my head, but my pet peeve I would say is when production and hosts go out of their way to specify that they're going to make sure that they cast people with no relationships, and then they cast people they cast people that obviously have relationships or definitely know each other. It's one thing if you don't say that and then it just happens, but if you're going to say, oh, we're going to have this be a clean game, no one's going to know each other, and then people come in and like half the cast knows each other.
So do you think that's up to production? Like, should they investigate more? Because motherfuckers are slick. I remember our season Bloomington. Is the cast is public, right? 2 months in advance. And a lot of people I already knew each other. And what did people do? They unfriended each other. It's like, dog, I know you know this person. So it's like, is that production's job to go hard and look for it? Or are we at the point where it's like everyone's gonna know each other anyway? And we just gotta go into every season like it's an all-star season. That's how I personally feel.
I think for me, I don't like I think that there's naturally going to be people who know each other. That's just going to be a part of LRGs, regardless if we like it or not. And I'm okay with that aspect of it. I just don't like when hosts are like, "Oh, no one will know each other. I promise you." Like, there'll be no like outside relationships going in, and then there is, because if you think that there's a possibility that that could happen, then just don't say that.
Yeah,
that's why.
But yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, honestly, sometimes that having a relationship in the game isn't always to your benefit. Like, especially if you know multiple people, it's like they're all going to be expecting you to just work with them because you know each other. But then it's like, at some point, you're going to have to pick one or the over the other. And I feel like that is honestly like harder to do than a blank slate sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I agree. I definitely agree.
I agree with that. I think it's like coming in with people is a burden sometimes because you're looking out. You kind of feel like you are looking out for them as well. And it's like, you don't want to burn them early, but then like if they're doing something that's not helping your game, it's like if all three of us were on a tribe right now and like one of us has to go home right now, it's like,
bye.
I got it. Yeah. It's
like
it's like you got to think about a lot of things. It's like, all right, well, I know this person. I know the last 2 games they got swap screwed. And I know they never make a final. This person never makes a merge, but this person is better for me to go. Like, it's so many factors. And I feel like when you go into games knowing people, it's not – people are like, oh, it's an unfair advantage. I feel like it's not. Like, if you're a rookie or if you have the least connections, you definitely have a better chance than everyone else.
Especially if other people know your connections, then you can get targeted for knowing them, even if it's not, like, your choice. Like, you didn't choose to be cast with someone, but like you could still get targeted for knowing that person.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So I think I need another drink. All right. So ask that question. All right. So next question. All right. So being a trans woman, how do you feel about the representation in not only LRGs, but let's get a little bit more broad, like film, media, even books, like literature? Like, how do you feel 2024, how do you feel about representation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking like mass media classes right now, so this is a perfect time to ask that. I think starting with reality TV, I think that it's quite terrible. Like, I've seen the cast for Survivor like 48 or whatever. So the fact that there's been 48 seasons without a single trans woman on it is kind of astounding to me. I'm not gonna lie.
Is that this season or that's the upcoming season?
Upcoming season. I've seen the cast for it. So I think that there's definitely lack of representation there, and I think it is important because we have seen trans men on it. So I'm just like, when is it trans females' turns? Overall in the media, I think it isn't great. I feel like, especially like with social media, like society pushes forward trans women that are bad representations and put trans people in a bad light. Those are the ones who get platforms a lot of the time. Like you see like Lily Tino, for example, or like Blair White, another example, just like these trans women that don't really project good energy or are creepy. Like Lily Tino is like a literal like predator. So I think that there is a lot of work to do to kind of change that image surrounding trans women, because a lot of us are just trying to live our lives and do our own thing. Yeah, I mean, it definitely stinks to not see people that like, you know, have had a similar life to you or have similar experiences, because I think that that is so important, especially in the media with like kids who are still trying to figure themselves out. And like, I feel like if I saw someone who was trans earlier, I would have put the pieces together faster that that's what I was, because I didn't even know that that was a thing, because I thought I knew something was off. I didn't know that that was a thing until later on. So I think having that representation or having that role model to look up to is super important. And I hope like as a whole, like reality TV, like books, media just changes that and pushes it more towards a positive light.
Do you know of any books or like any film that has like a positive portrayal of trans women or trans people in general?
There's definitely like a couple, like Baby Reindeer, for example, that just came out, that was super big on Netflix, had a trans woman that was portrayed in a positive light. Euphoria, Jules had kind of like a mixed like perception, I guess, from people. Like Orange is the New Black, like I think there is becoming more common Heartstopper. There are definitely are TV shows that are portraying trans women in a more positive light, but I also think that there is like a lot of work to go in like other aspects, because I feel like in like reading books, like you don't really ever read about trans women, or like seeing movies, like you don't really see trans women in like, you see them in film, like TV, I guess, but not as much in like movies. So I think that there are different aspects of media that they still need to improve in a lot more. And even still with TV, I think that there's a lot of work to do as well.
Yeah. Got anything you want to add to that?
I think that's true. I think it's crazy how sometimes like certain allergies, definitely not all of them, like I feel like go a little bit above and beyond to make sure there is some type of not just trans, but just like a whole different array of people. And like I said, it's crazy that like Survivor hasn't had any, but like LRGs can have multiple different categories of people. Like I feel like that's crazy that that's not, and it's like such a big thing. Like they have a plethora of different applicants, and it's crazy that none have made it through.
And I think that's kind of why, wasn't that what LRGs were made for, basically, to give a platform for people who aren't represented. So yeah,
100%. It's sad. And like I talked to Bryce from Survivor Cagayan when I went to one of the watch parties, and we had a whole conversation about it. And he's literally told me, he's like, I'm pushing for it because we do have trans women applying to get on Survivor, and the producers are just are like very hesitant about it. So, and he's like, I've been fighting for that because we need trans women on the show because that is such a good representation. And a surprisingly large audience of Survivor is trans people too. I think like even like if you look on Twitter, for example, a lot of the Survivor fans have like trans flags next to their names. So I think that it is important that we have trans people on the show and to continue representing.
Yeah.
And so are you going to be the first one on Survivor?
I made it pretty far into casting the first time I applied. I need to send in my videos, so I need to do that like soon.
Oh, that would be. Can you imagine how iconic Brady would be on Survivor?
Yeah,
I feel like it'd either be like first boot or like final five. I feel like it'd be one or the other, like early like final five.
You're definitely not giving first boot.
That's how you know when you're a good player, because it's like I'm gonna be really early, but if you don't get me out early, you know I'm going fucking far, and that's just like a testament of how good a player is. Because either they clock you, and if they don't clock you, it's gonna be a show. I'm gonna be on for a minute. All right. So, speaking on the same topic, so what are like some personal struggles that you had, like, I guess for people who are listening, or just like even just for educational purposes, like how was it for you communicating this with your family or your parents, or was it something that they didn't accept at first and they slowly accepted? Like, yeah, let us know the journey.
Yeah, I think at least I'm very lucky and blessed to have such a strong support system. Like I came out to my parents initially when I was like 12 or 13. And my parents were like, are you serious about this? Do you want to start this? And I was like, yes. And then they were like, okay, we're like letting you take the lead. And then I decided not to start hormones for a couple more years because I wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing because I was so young, and I wanted to make sure that I was doing the right thing for my body and making sure that it was something that I needed, like I physically needed to do. And it got to a point where I literally felt like I had to transition in order to like fucking live. So I started, and I feel like if anything, like it's been harder kind of in a social setting than like with my family. Because I go to school even, and like people at my school like don't know, because at my old school, like I literally was just living, existing, and I had people like threatening to beat me up, like threatening to jump me, making up lies about me, saying I was going around kissing guys without telling them I'm trans, which is literally something I would never do and is so dangerous. But people are always going to have their own narrative. People are always going to run their mouths. And I think for me, like I always just have to put myself first, and it sucks that you have to hide yourself to, like, aside of yourself to certain people. But at the same time, I have to protect myself. So that's definitely like a hard social aspect of it, I would say. But at the same time, I have other platforms like LRGs, for example, where I can just fully be myself and like not have to worry about that. But I mean, like high school and college, definitely, it's tricky to navigate because you want to be respectful to people. And like, but at the same time, you don't want to lead people on. But at the same time, it's like you need to protect your peace and protect your own safety too.
How does that transfer? So you said like you feel like you got to hide a part of yourself in like school. How does that transfer like in the work setting? So like work, how do you maneuver around that?
People knew at my job. I think that was when I worked at Starbucks. I'm not really working right now. I do like freelance like social media stuff on the side, but like at least when I worked at like my job, like people knew, like I didn't hide it at work. Like if I get close enough to somebody, I'll tell them, but like if I'm gonna see like a sorority girl or like a frat brother at the party and a frat guy tries to hit on me, I'm not gonna like hold up a sign and says like I'm trans. But at the same time, I'm not gonna like entertain it or like engage it. Which kind of sucks because I feel like it kind of takes away from that college experience where you to like mingle and socialize and like flirt with guys or whatever and like be able to party, not have to worry about anything. So that does kind of suck that you don't really get like the full college experience like other people do. But at the same time, like I know that it comes with the territory of being trans, and it's just something I have to live with.
Yeah, I mean, I've met one other trans person that I felt like we got a little close. I played LRG with them.
Oh, what's their name?
I don't want to say names, but and there was something that they mentioned about like going on like certain websites like Grindr and stuff, and then like even though like they will put that they're trans, like they're still weary because there's been stories that people will go like a straight male, quote unquote heterosexual male, sleep with a trans person, but then like do something violent to them or like even as far as killing them because they don't want people to know. But it's like, so if you're hetero, why are you even in Grindr? And so is that like a real fear? Is that like a fear that you have sometimes like, hey, I might meet someone and they might fucking snap, even if they know up front?
Definitely. I think also like at least for me personally, like I don't use Grindr because I think that that's kind of like, oh, like you're just like looking for like dick. And like for me, like there was definitely like a phase in my life where I thought I needed that validation. But to me, like I don't know, like I respect myself. I shouldn't say respect myself. Like I like, you know, have come to a point in my life where I feel like I don't need just a temporary hookup to like satisfy or like to validate like my womanhood or anything like that. So like for me, like I'm very particular. I'm very specific with who I meet up with. I go through FaceTimes and calls with them before I meet up with people. Like, um, yeah, I don't just let like middle-aged men into my house like some trans women do. But um, I don't know. I think it honestly, it just depends. But also, I feel like it is a double-edged sword because some trans women do. I advocate for them, but at the same time, I think some trans women do like try and push this narrative that like, oh, like they think I'm so ugly, they think I'm so gross. And I'm like, but you're not putting any effort into your transition or into your womanhood. Like you have like a beard or like you like literally have like leg hair. You know what I mean? Like I feel like at the same time, if you want to be viewed and perceived as a woman and respected as a woman, you need to be put in that effort. And some people just don't, and they disgrace the community.
So I didn't really outline this part before, but you just brought up like something in my head. So like this is coming from someone who's really just trying to get some education on this. So is there different levels of where you feel like someone should or can identify as a trans person? Like, do you feel like the hormones has to be a thing? Do you have to look a certain way? Or if someone just says, hey, listen, I'm transitioning and that's where I'm at in my life, can they have that title as I'm a trans person? Or do you believe you have to be taking those steps, and like how quick do you have to take those steps? Is it a year thing? Is it 2 year thing? Because there are families where they're like, yeah, okay, we know you're trans, but we don't want that in public. So like, where's the standard? How do you view that?
It's hard because I feel like there are some trans people that simply just don't have like the access or resources to transition, and like that makes it kind of like a trickier question to answer. To me, I feel like if you look like a man, you shouldn't be using the female restroom. I feel like there was a point in my life when I started transitioning where like I knew I identified as a woman, but at the same time, like I don't want to walk into a female space and have anyone feel uncomfortable or feel a type of way. So I waited until I was able to pass before I did that. And I think that that's honestly the way that a lot of people should be handling that. Like, if you have a beard and you're wearing a dress, like, I do not think you should be going in the women's restroom. You need to go to either like a male's restroom or a unisex or like a gender neutral bathroom. Cause like at the end of the day, if I was in that perspective, like as a female sitting in the bathroom and someone came in, I would be uncomfortable. And I think it's our job as trans women who is trying to integrate like with cis women to make sure that they feel comfortable and safe in their own spaces. So I think that that's definitely super important. And I think that there are some trans people who are creepy and like do think that they can just go in and they can grab the label of women or grab the title of female and think that they can just go into whatever bathroom they want. And I just don't think that that's how it should work. I think that you need to put an effort to your transition before you go into any sort of bathroom that, you know, you align, that you say you align with. Like, you need to show that you're putting in that work. And I don't know, some people just don't. And it's kind of sad and it's not really okay. And it gives our community a bad name.
So, but do you feel like that's also part of the stigma though, where you just said that you want like a cis woman to feel safe. So like
Mhm.
if trans woman you're going in, and if you feel like they don't look the part, then they shouldn't go there. But then I feel like it's kind of like the stigma where it's like the cis woman has to feel safe, but it's like they don't know your struggle or that trans person's struggle, and maybe yeah they don't look the part yet, but if they feel and identify as a woman, then I feel like society and like the social construct shouldn't be able to dictate. Well, oh no, you're hairy and you're tall and you no you can't. I don't know. That's how I view it.
I understand what you're saying. I agree. I agree with that too. I think it is such a hard question to answer because there are obviously outside factors and variables that go into a transition, and there are so many outside sources. And like for me, like I obviously have different experiences of transitioning that maybe another trans person may have. So maybe it's easier for me to just be like, I can wait this out. Like I've waited my entire life to do this. I can wait until I pass more.
Yeah.
Um, my issue is just I think more so with the people who um put in zero effort at all. Like if you're walking in with a beard, like a razor costs $7, shave it. You know what I mean?
I mean, some cost 99 cents, but
Like that's what I'm saying. Like if you can afford the car that you're in and getting gas to drive to a location, then you can afford to get that razor and shave your beard. That's just my logic. Personally, I think that it just honestly depends on the situation. It's very circumstantial because some women also might feel much more okay with it than other women. And the harsh reality is that there are different perspectives and different viewpoints. In that one bathroom, all the girls, and it might be fine with it. And another one, they might call the police, and you never know. And that's kind of also another variable that kind of factors into it.
so all right. Also, one last thing. So, what is like financially? How much of that is a burden for someone that's transitioning, or is it like state by state? There's programs that people can get, you know, medication and stuff to start transitioning, or is it really hard? Like it depends on your financial well being as a person or family.
Yeah, I think that so a lot of people don't know this. A lot of trans, depending on your insurance, it's covered by insurance. So a lot of them are referred to as gender affirming surgeries. So if you are a trans person and you have the proof of you've been like on hormones for like a year, if you have, or if you have documentation from a psychiatrist
Okay.
or like a therapist, as well as like a primary care provider, if you get that paperwork, then you can push it towards insurance, and insurance will cover most of it. That's what happened with and also my job when I worked with Starbucks. Starbucks' insurance covers that surgery as well, at least getting my face done. So I
Shout out to
only
Starbucks.
honestly, there are a lot of like even some colleges like pay for those surgeries. So like I only ended up having to pay like $4,000 out of pocket. It was like a $120,000 surgery. So that it's pretty good. I'm getting my face done again, hopefully next summer, and then I'm getting um my breasts done in 2 months. And a lot of people would be surprised, but like breast augmentation is also covered. So I don't have to pay a dime for that one, and that's like $20,000. So it honestly depends on the insurance. It depends on your provider. It depends on how far along you are in your transition. If you have letters of approval, there are a lot of variables. It also depends on the doctor because some doctors do accept insurance and others don't. Some doctors make you pay fully out of pocket where other surgeons accept it. So there are a lot of variables into that too. But yeah, there are programs as well too that help with that. If some people don't have that money, there are definitely like a lot of different outlets that you can kind of find, and it's pretty easy to research too.
Is there so because I don't know. I think like medical insurance companies are kind of like sharks. They look at ways to like not cover people. So
Mhm.
as being a trans person, does that sometimes hinder when you're trying to do just other medical stuff? Like, do they say, well, you're prone to like having a negative reaction if you do I don't know, like a root canal or some shit? Does it make it harder where other things now aren't being covered when you start transitioning?
Um, no, but I also think that that could be just because like I have a primary and a secondary insurance. So if the primary insurance doesn't cover it, the second one usually does. So I don't have that issue really. And also like I'm very blessed that my parents do have really good insurance. Both of them do.
Yeah.
So um worst comes to worst, like it's a phone call with my insurance and we just have to battle them for like a couple days and then it usually just goes through. I personally haven't had that issue, but I can definitely see how the other people possibly having that issue. But I think it just depends on the insurance, honestly. And a lot of insurance companies are just, they try and like find fucking loopholes and just try and find stupid shit to try and not allow you to get money out of them. So I think that it's gonna happen regardless, trans or not. But I'm sure that happens with some trans people for sure.
Okay.
I actually have another question that's like similar. So I know there's like a lot of controversy surrounding like trans people and like sports, for example. And like some people feel it's unfair for a trans woman to be able to compete against biological women or cis women. What do you think is like the right answer to that? Or like, do you have any ideas of how to make everyone happy? Because that'll never happen. But what's the best way to approach that?
Also, even in LRGs too,
True, yeah.
same thing.
I mean, I feel like at least with like Survivor games, like that's not really an issue with LRGs. But even like with the challenge, like I had this conversation while I was on 18. Like there were, I don't want to give away challenges, but there were physical challenges where you had to go one on one against other females. And like for me, like I personally like felt like I couldn't go at my full force or full potential because I didn't want to hurt anybody. But at the same time, it's like I am a woman, but you know what I mean? There is obviously going to be some sort of biological, like physical advantage. And I think it is such a hard question to answer because there is like no direct solution to it. Like some people can say like, oh, like make a third league, which I could see how that would be an option for sure. It's hard because I feel like my personal opinion is that if the trans person started transitioning before they hit puberty and they were on testosterone blockers and estrogen and their hormonal levels align the same as a biological woman's, depending on the sport, I don't think it should be an issue. I think some sports probably shouldn't allow it regardless. For example, I think a sport that would be okay with that is like, for example, like volleyball. But I think like a sport like swimming, for example, like obviously that muscle, like how you're built, generally speaking, like would be stronger for, it would be biological men are just generally faster. So I think it does depend on the sport. It depends on hormonal levels. It depends on when they started transitioning. I feel like it depends if all the other competitors are okay with it. So I think that there are variables. It does suck that it is such a big thing because I feel like at the end of the day, it just comes down to trans people just trying to do something they're passionate about and do something they love. And I feel like no one should be stopped or feel like they need to be put away or put in a corner or ostracized for doing something that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
But it is a hard question to answer because I feel like there is no right or wrong answer. And I feel like people do have such strong varying opinions on it, but I don't think that there is like a right or wrong opinion, I guess.
I mean, I could kind of see what you're saying about like certain sports, like I guess something that's not a lot of physical contact. Like, well, we have the WNBA, so like, would it be okay for a trans woman to play in the WNBA? I mean, I don't. To me, I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. But like something like you said, like volleyball, or if we have what's another sport where there's like a women's league, tennis, like certain sports like that, I don't see, because then you also have outliers where you have like some women who are bodybuilders who are more jacked and just like they're physically stronger than cis men. So like does like where does that weigh in? Like a trans woman is basically, if they're doing the hormones like you said and all of that aligns now with a biological woman, I don't see where it's unfair for them to compete. And then also like another thing is like, do you even think we would see a trans person like in the WNBA or in any type of sport anytime soon, like breaking ways like into professional sports?
No, I don't, sadly. I think that is something that there's still like a decent way. It's kind of still probably far away until we hit that point, which kind of sucks. But at the same time, like it does make sense. I feel like we're as a society, we are moving forward and we are becoming more progressive, but there still is a lot more ways to go.
Yeah.
Even like, for example, with me, like I've been on hormones since I was like 17. So I started hormones after I hit puberty. And like an example is like my hormonal levels and like testosterone, estrogen levels, they are on par. They're lower. My testosterone levels are lower than like 45% of biological women. So like I'm already like segueing my way down. But at the same time, like my bones have developed, my muscles have developed, and that's something that isn't like really changeable. So like I wouldn't be comfortable, for example, like competing against like a woman and like swimming. That doesn't take away from the fact that I view myself as a woman, but I also think that I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, like I was born a biological woman, because there are trans people who like say they have periods, and you know what I mean, like the delusional shit. So like, it is hard to navigate because at the end of the day, like you want to do what you love, but you also like don't want to make people feel uncomfortable or people get upset if the results, you know, go your way or go away that maybe, you know, especially like Republicans and like, you know, the super conservative like
The
audience.
magic.
Yeah, exactly. Because they always have something to say. They're always spewing hate about trans people. So, and it's sad because I feel like if they met like any normal trans person, they'd be like, oh, a lot of them like are actually like kind of chill and just like doing their own thing. But it is what it is, you know.
Yeah, I think that's why with like trans people, I feel like this is why this is such an interesting topic to me, because I feel like it's the same type of discrimination as like POC people had, whereas like you get like this predator thing, like you said, is they think sometimes like a trans person is going to a woman's bathroom to be on something weird, but it's
Mhm.
like no, if a trans person is going to the bathroom, they have that confidence to go in there, it's because they identify with that gender, and they're not going in there to go look at any girls. You
You're
know,
going to the bathroom.
they're
It's
going
not an
to,
ulterior.
yeah,
Washing your hands and bouncing. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like I think that's what the big stigma is. Like they're like, well, oh, they're trying to be freaks or like be weird about it. It's like, no, I think we're trying to be weird about it. Where I don't know. I've been to restaurants where they have 3 bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to restaurants where they have 1 bathroom, which says like does it say like old gender on it usually?
Yeah, or it just says restroom.
Yeah, it'll just say restroom. But it's like, so does that feel like kind of like a slap in the face when it's like, if you ever, I don't know if you ever been to like a restaurant with 3 bathrooms, where it's like, do you feel like, oh, I have to go and one of these over the other one, or like how does that, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't really feel any type of way about that, honestly. Like, I know like what I view myself as, and I don't think like for me personally, if I saw a restroom sign, if someone like told me I needed to go into one, I would feel some type of way about it. But like, no, I mean, honestly, like I like that that's an option, at least for some like trans people or non-binary people, or
Yeah,
people who are trying to figure out their identity, or maybe some people would feel like women would feel safer in like an individual bathroom if there's like queer men who maybe are super feminine who would feel more comfortable in like a gender neutral bathroom. Like I think that that's kind of what that's catered towards and for. For me, like I don't really feel like any strong leaning towards one or another. If they're both solo bathrooms, whichever one's open, if I really need to go, honestly.
yeah, and I think most of them have been solo bathrooms. Like I seen that in my college. Like it was a solo bathroom, but it said all sex, all gender, and it had 3 different like images. It's like, okay, so it's not like, I think that's more acceptable, like than instead of the 3, where it's like somebody standing there, like which one are you gonna go in, and then it's like it puts you in that box. Um, I had another question I was leading with this. Oh man,
Hopefully, like you said, you don't see anytime soon where that would be like in like a professional sport. In the future, I think it would be like great if there was, besides just like a men's league and a women's league, if there's like one that's based on like your skill level, no matter who you are, what you identify as. Like there could be men, women, other, like it could be like just based
Yeah.
on literally the sport. Like if that's what you're there to do, like it doesn't matter who competes against who, because you could have a tiny guy that's in a men's league and still better than like the big guys. Like it doesn't matter. Like there should be something that is just like based on your skill in the sport. That would be really good to see like in the future.
That would be actually that's actually a really good point too. I never really thought about it like that. That would be a really like that'd be a good approach, I think too.
Yeah.
I just remember one question. So I feel like with any type of struggle or any type of cultural thing, I feel like there's a lot of people which I'll call like culture vultures. And I feel like there's certain people who will be like, I'm non-binary, I'm they them, but then I'm she they, and then next 6 months I'm just she her, and then oh no, now is that something that bothers you, or do you feel like that's something that takes away from like what like trans people are trying to do, where you have certain people who I feel like they just want to go back and forth. Like, I don't know personally, maybe it's something at home and they're like, I can't fully do this, but I do feel like there are some culture vultures where people are using it. It's like the whole MAGA shit. Like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just keep shitting on Republicans right now, where a lot of people are just trying to ride a certain train, just like, I'm different. I just want to go this path. But it's like they're just doing it for the wrong reasons. So do you feel like that's a thing going on?
Oh, definitely. I mean, even through middle school, I remember like people kept switching their pronouns or switching their names. And like, to me, I think that that's just a slap in the face. Like, obviously, you're young, you're still figuring your shit out. But at the same time, like, I personally feel like I was smart enough when I was 12 to not like start identifying as something until I was 100% confident that that's what I was. And I
Okay.
think that that does do a disservice to like trans people or non-binary people in general who are just trying to live their lives, for people to just try and latch onto it and then just switch away, because then the whole argument about so many people detransition, and then it's because of people who are like culture vultures who do that, who attach themselves to that label and then detransition after a year, and it's like they weren't ever actually trans, but now that's being pulled into the whole trans conversation about detransitioning. So it does negatively affect trans people, and I do think that like obviously it's probably not done with ill intent, but I also don't like, really understand like why somebody would want to be trans for society. I'm like, okay, you're about to be like ostracized and like put like, like cussed out or like slurred out. Like, I don't understand like what's the appeal to that personally, but if that's what somebody wants to do, I guess for a year, then maybe it's just like a canon event. I don't know. But I do think that people need to be like more mindful. And if you're going to make that change, then make sure you're 100% sure that that's what you want to do and that's how you want to live your life before you do it.
Yeah, what's I always forget their name. What's the Kardashian dad?
Caitlyn Jenner.
Like, how do you feel like someone like that who transitioned, but then still is like, all right, well, I'm attracted to, biological women only. That's what I'm gonna date. And then they're like aligned with a party who's like against their lifestyle, like stuff like that. Like, how is that person like someone that you like when they were transitioning? He was like, oh, this is kind of good, like someone on a bigger platform. And like, do you still agree with them, or do you think they're one of those people who quote unquote is a culture vulture?
It's such brain rot to me. There's these trans women that are on my TikTok page all the time that are like super MAGA. And I'm just like, you're just trying to be a pick me at that point. Like at the end of the day, like, okay, you don't need to agree with everything on the Liberal Party. Like obviously both parties have flaws. Like anyone with two brain cells can admit that no party's perfect. It's politics, like at the end of the
Right.
day. But at the same time, it's like, do they read about what Project 2025 is? Did they read about some of like the policies that Trump and Vance want to put in place? And it's just like at that point, okay, you want to be cute and quirky and stand out and like please the masses of like Republicans that are on TikTok, but at the same time, like you're doing your own community a disservice by like spreading false information and trying to like advocate for somebody that is literally against like so many things that you stand for and about who you are. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. And it's upsetting because it's just like you're just a pick me.
Yeah. All right. So I got like one more question on that topic, and then we're spinning wheel and get back to some lighter questions. So here's something that maybe doesn't particularly just it's particularly not just for you. Here's a thing where this is a conversation I seen on a YouTube channel. I think it was Jubilee, but
Oh,
people didn't,
no.
yeah, they didn't really want to talk about it. I think they passed on it, and it was basically, all right. So a trans person could be, biologically born a different gender, and then they wanted it to transition. And like some hard right people would argue, well, I'm white. Like, say the guy's white, and he's like, well, now I want to identify as Asian. And then be like, well, it needs to be fair, because if you have someone who was born a man and now they want to identify as a woman, do you feel like, to me that's really a condescending like counter argument, but how do you feel about that? Like, do you think that should be also like people should have the right to be like, well, today I woke up and I feel Puerto Rican now, and now I'm gonna identify as being Puerto Rican?
I think that that is such a brain rot argument. I think that that's always the argument that far right leaning people try and pull out. But I also think that far right people are kind of brain dead in the sense that people don't know the difference between gender and sex. And I think that people assume that we're like trying to change our sex. But I'm like, no, like I can know like what sex I was born, but be like, I don't align with that. And like start transitioning from male to female. I'm not changing my biological sex. I'm switching my gender. And I think that that's like a big thing that like Republicans think that like, oh, we're literally just like, you know what I mean? I don't even know how to explain it. I think that that's just such a stupid argument, and to like bring race into it. Like race and gender like are so different too. It's just like how that's like comparing like bananas and tomatoes. Like it's okay, they're both like fruits and veggies, but they're not even close to the same thing. So it's like, how are you going to compare gender and race?
I feel like people also like that. People who say they're gonna like identify as a different race just to like make an equal argument. I feel like that's like similar to people who are like, well, fine, I'm attracted to helicopters. Like you're just really saying that to try to like be relevant and like they actually mean that. Like I feel like if someone's identifying as trans, it's not like you said, it's not for fun. It's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna try it. Like no, that the people who say stuff like that are just degrading like the seriousness or like being what trans is and like an identity.
But it's also like, how do you identify as being Black now?
Right, like
so then if you're identified as being Black, what type of Black? Are you Caribbean? Are you Afro-Latino, Afro-Latina? Are you Caribbean? Like what do you mean by identify as being Black? And do you know what that means? So like I feel like you can't do that with race or ethnicities, because races and ethnicities have a certain struggle and a history that's attached to it. Whereas like you're gonna identify as being Black, and then what are you gonna do? They're gonna say some racial shit. What, you're gonna start listening to hip hop or wearing clothes a certain way? That doesn't mean you're identified as being Black. You know what that could mean? Well, you're identified with inner city or urban or hip hop culture, which is for anyone who's in the inner city. So I always found that argument to be bogus. I just wanted to bring it up to see how, like, if you ever had somebody say something to you or like, okay, well, you identify as a woman. Well, I identify as being fucking Black right now.
It's stupid. I hate that so much. It's like you're doing a disservice at that point, not only to like the LGBT community, but people who are POC. And it's just like, okay, like I just think that it's so ignorant that people think that because they're white that they can just like a cis white male that they can automatically think they know everything about all other genders or races or like religion. Like I think people are just very ignorant and closed-minded and just try and use stupid ass logical arguments that aren't even logical to try and prove a point. But in doing so, they're like berating race and like using it as like a stepping stool to make a stupid ass argument. I don't like it.
All right. I think it's time to spin the wheel.
Spin that wheel.
All right. Well, you spin it this time.
I don't want to break it.
You got it.
This wheel is very sensitive, so.
Shots.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be like drunk by the end of this.
All right.
That's a shot. Okay.
All right. Last time, Taylor.
Okay. Mystery question.
All right. You gotta think of a question. All right. Hold on. That's something you had. You're usually like good on the fly with like a random question.
Me?
Yeah.
You guys be messy. Give me something messy.
Yeah, give us something messy.
Yeah, do it.
I'm trying to think. Spin that shit one more time. Hold on. I can't even think of a question.
That's crazy.
All right. Well, while she's thinking of the question, I do have something else.
This is your question.
Oh, okay. I do have a question.
Okay.
So I heard a lot of guys in the LRG community do have interest in you. And how does that work? Like, I know you spoke earlier about it where like you're not at frat parties trying to like be like, hey, I'm trans. Like, so in the LRG community, do you feel like people should just do their own research? If they don't know, they don't know. Is this something that you're not going to say until you guys get serious? Or when do you feel like it's the appropriate time to have that conversation?
I've always been an advocate for if I feel like getting flirted, not even if it's flirty, it's like whatever. If I feel like it's starting to go physical, like if he tries to like grab me or if he tries to like touch me, at least physically speaking, then that's when I would say something. In terms of like online, once it starts to get sexual, I feel like that's when I should say something, because like pointless like banter, like just flirtiness, being like, oh, like you're cute, whatever, like that's one thing, but being like, oh, like semi-nudes, like at that point, like that's when you need to like at least, I think personally, like say something.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the most correct way to do it. It's not, it's if everyone is DMing you and someone's sending you a dick pic and they're not asking you for anything back and they're just giving you this info and stuff like that, I feel like you don't have to. I don't know. I just feel like that's also like one of those things where, like you said, when it's going to become physical, that's when I'm going to say something. Because at that point, it's just all talk in the beginning stages.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally just talk. Like, I don't know. I think it's I've always been an advocate because it also differentiates on the person too, and like the situation, because I feel like one situation like you have to say something like right away, but other situations like you can wait like a couple days because it's literally just like casual talking.
Okay, that just reminded me of a question. There is a popular, I think they're like a YouTube couple where the man says he identifies as a heterosexual male, cis male, some white guy, looks like he's on steroids, and he's married to a trans woman. And he's like, I am not gay.
Is that guy that's on like that podcast that's super popular, like Adam 22's podcast?
I think he was on Adam 22's, and he was also on a Jubilee and a Cut video.
Oh, with the blonde girl?
Yeah, where they did like the lie detector test.
So she cheated on him.
Yeah. So how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like someone who dates a trans woman or a trans man, you feel like, are they gay? Can they say they're heterosexual? Like, how do you, what's your take on that?
It's a hard question to answer because I feel like I don't know the mindset of like a man in that position. I don't know. Cause like for one thing, like I feel like if you're like a post-op trans woman, like with the vagina, like it's hard because it's like, okay, like you were once like obviously like a guy, but like now you like fully identify as a woman and present as a woman. Does that make you gay even though it's a vagina? So I feel like it is such a hard question to answer, and I feel like there is like no right or wrong answer to it. I've always said that sexuality is a spectrum, and it's not just like, oh, gay, straight, bi. I think that it just depends on the person. I feel like some people, it's fluid, you know what I mean? Like I think that there could be like a trans woman a guy could be attracted to. Like half the time like guys see trans girls, they don't even know that they're trans. So I think it honestly just depends, you know? But that doesn't make them gay for thinking she's hot, right? So it's just like, it's very circumstantial.
And also, it doesn't always have to be a label. Like, someone doesn't just have to be like, oh, well, I'm a heterosexual. Like, if somebody is in love with someone, who cares? Like, why do you care so much about what that person identify as and what's their label for being attracted to this person? Like,
yeah,
I feel like people worry too much about trying to like slap a label on it and fit in. Like, it's really not that big of a deal to me, and it sucks that some people are so like stuck up on that, like a title or a label.
Yeah, I think titles and labels is definitely like the end of society right now, where I grew up in an era where like, so like, you know, everyone's black and brown I grew up with, but we would have like the one Irish kid who lived in our neighborhood, the one Polish kid, and it was like the one Jewish kid. So all their backgrounds were different from like the majority of my friends, but we never were like, oh, he's the white kid or his parents are Republican. And I just feel like now, and I'm gonna put that on the internet and social media, I just feel like we all just need to stop with fucking labels. And it's just like, if a person's a good person, you care about that person. And I think we need to stop judging people about their personal lives. Like, it's like sometimes I feel like I'm posting a lot about like my liberal side because I'm just tired of like every conversation I have when people I meet randomly, even in the store, people just feel like they're obligated to talk politics with me. And it's like, stop trying to make me sway your way. Like, this is how I feel. And now you feel kind of offended. It's like, but you brought this into my spectrum. Like, I don't meet you and say, hey,
oh, it's my dad. Hold on 1 second.
Let's pull him up. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like it's getting like better. Like, even now people are being more like progressive with saying like, oh, this is my partner, instead of like, oh, this is my husband, this is my boyfriend. Like, it doesn't always have to be a label.
But partner is also like the right label. Like, we're not married, so, well, not yet. So like on my like emergency contacts, I put Taylor Clark and I put domestic partner, which is like, that's the correct term anyway.
Yeah.
I just think the titles is crazy. Like, I don't Brady back. I don't think I ever met someone like, I don't think when I first met Brady, I was like, hey Brady, my name is John V. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm from the inner city. I'm a liberal. I fuck with Castro, so I'm also a Marxist. Like, I don't think those are things that need to be said. I have 3 brothers. Like, I feel like people need to just like people for who they are. Because if we want to go back in time and start looking back at everybody we met in our lives, we might be like, fuck, this person was a hardcore conservative, or this person thinks this about the gay community, or this person said this something that was racist when they were like 8 years old. And I just feel like we just need to just just stop. It's just too fucking much.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's just like I've never understood making it your personality. Like for me, like I want people like that's why another reason, like if I'm talking to someone, like I don't feel like I need to disclose it right away because I want people to get to know me for me before they just like, oh, assume like figure out I'm trans and then get all like these negative like connotations or like stigmas that are attached to trans and like try and label that on me. Like I'd rather have them get to know me first as a person and be like, oh, she's actually cool, like before any of that gets involved. And I've always been an advocate for that.
Right. Like if someone gets to know you, whether they know that you're a trans woman or not, like it's still you. So like I don't know, I just hate that people feel like there's a certain like time you have to give a label to. Like just get to know people for them. Like stop worrying about what someone feels like, who someone wants to fuck. Like just get to know people and
Yeah. And
that
then,
would make everyone a lot more happy.
and that part to me always gets me is like, why do you care? I'm
Yeah.
like, if that person's not fucking on you and it's like if they're not fucking you, why do you care who they're fucking?
Right.
They're like not having consensual sex with you or doing anything to you. So why do you feel like you have any right to govern or say no, they can't do this?
Right, like how does that affect you?
Yeah,
Exactly.
it does. Something else too. I had damn, yeah, anything else? I had like a fair question. That was like a good one. I'm getting old, so I'm trying to remember what the hell
I'm
it was.
gonna tie back to LRGs. Make it a little bit more lighter. So do you feel like in games, like being flirtatious with someone, do you think that can be used as like a way to make allies, or do you feel like that's just like somebody's personality, or like is that a good thing, a bad thing? Do you have any experience with that?
Politicking, I think, is always a good thing.
Politicking.
Politicking is always a good thing.
Honestly, like it kind of sucks because I've never actually been able to like polydick in a game. Like Bloomington, like there was nobody that I like flirted with, and then like this last season, season 18 of Dream Media, actually I can't even say anything about the cast, but there was no one to flirt with. And then 15 didn't flirt with anybody. Season 14 of Dream Media, like I like flirted with people and I did stuff, but like it was after I was already out at that point, so it was like not really beneficial. But I definitely like I love to flirt. I would love to use that in the game. It kind of sucks because like all like the straight or bi men like don't exist in the LRG community. It's like very far and few. Whoever thought that that would be the minority, like the straight men, but it is surprisingly. I think it can be a strategy to an extent. I think it's depends on how you maneuver it and how you navigate it. I'm hopefully going to be playing some games this summer before I get surgery, 1 or 2, hopefully. But we shall see. Like, I definitely want to try and like spice up my gameplay a little bit. I feel like it's fun. I feel like not many people play like that in like the allergy community, and I want to kind of try it out and see like what happens. Because like we see Parvati and that works, so why not?
To say that.
I think Parvati has somebody snipping on her from when they saw her originally when they were like a teenager. They were like, "You were my biggest crush," and she was like, "Okay."
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, in my pocket." I'm
yeah. That's like season 40, something. I don't know. You know how to really watch the show.
Fake showmans could definitely make someone do whatever that you want them to do.
Oh, here's one. So, like, getting close to our closing questions. You get one. I'm thinking one right now. All right, when will we see Brady on another Survivor based thing?
I mean, that's your guess is as good as mine. I've applied to a couple. I've been cut every single time, which is literally.
Do they know who you are?
That's not progressive. Hold
That's
on.
what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't want to be the person. I want to be like, do you know who I am?
Yeah, you got to send that with your application. Like,
but the award, best confessionalist.
Yeah.
Honestly, I need to. I think like my top games that I want to play right now were like Real Foot, Survival Challenge, and Angelica. Those are like the 3 that I'm like really like wanting to play.
Mm-hmm.
I think definitely apply for Angelica, and I would love to see you and my brother for some reason in Golden Gate season 2. I think that would be so fucking funny. I want to see Golden Gates, and it's a house game. I think it's original format. I don't know shit about Big Brother. People say it's kind of similar. I don't know, but Golden Gates, I could definitely see you on it.
I would be down to do that, honestly. I think that like I definitely want to dip my toes back into like Survivor because I feel like that's where I kind of thrive. But I don't know. I applied to Can You Survive, but they love to cut me for some reason. Who knows?
That's fucked up.
I mean, that's a brand I don't really fuck with anyway. So, how about there's a new game that's in Jersey, Stranded. They
Who's
just
hosting that? I heard about that.
Will. It's got
Oh,
Will.
that's Will's game. Right.
Yeah. So he just finished filming his first season.
I would absolutely do that. I adore Will.
Yeah, and Will is a crazy dude. So like twist wise, you know, he'll cook something up pretty good.
No, yeah, I would do that. I would do Bloomington All Stars if I got invited for sure.
I hope they make it a pair game, and then you're just stuck with Tyler. So like, if Tyler goes home, you go home, and you have to like somehow fix and be the best duo.
I might die if that was the case.
That would be so fun to watch.
Yeah.
I wish I started like I've played a handful of games, maybe 2 handfuls, maybe 3 by now.
It's like a handful.
But I wish I started with like Survival Challenge because now I don't even bother applying because it's like I feel like connections. So many people apply to that they can probably make more of a cast with people who don't know each other.
Yeah.
I wish I started earlier in my career with that type of game because that looks so fun. But
It does.
I'm like, they're not gonna cast me.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, we're gonna campaign get Brady on a Survivor LRG. Do you have a last question?
No, that was my last question.
That didn't even sound like a question. That sounded like
No, my
like
question was before your question.
Okay, all right,
Let's talk
Brady.
about
So
showing
it's spooky
us.
season, right? We're going on a like movie binge right now. What movies did we see? They were 2 rando movies, but they were fucking
Barbarian.
good. Barbarian. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. What was it on Hulu? I think it was on Hulu or
I don't
Prime.
know.
Crazy shit. Don't watch the trailer. I feel like when you watch trailers, it ruins movies now because they show you the whole fucking plot.
They do. They really do.
Yeah, but so watch Barbarian. It's one of those movies that you just like you think you know what it's about to be about, and then you just fucking get knocked off your seat.
You know what's crazy? We literally watched that a few days ago, but I just suck at remembering anything about movies and actors. I'm like, wait, which one was that? I remember it was
That's
good.
the one with the Airbnb. Yeah, the downstairs.
Oh yeah.
Right, what's the?
And the one that was like with the alien thing.
Yeah, no. What was the other movie that we watched too?
Clearly, I don't know.
She doesn't know. All right, Brady.
It was good though.
Yeah, it was good.
Let me see.
Any movie that you wanna
on our spooky line.
Yeah, we're trying to do this spooky 31 days of Halloween type shit.
Oh, that's fun.
We saw
Possession of Hannah Grace.
Oh, Possession of Hannah Grace is with the girl from Pretty Little Liars.
Oh, okay.
I don't know which one. Which one is
Emily.
it? Emily.
Forgot her name.
Emily, yeah.
I'm gonna check that out. Honestly, I'm such a big horror fan, so I love horror. I love Final Destination. The entire series is one of my favorites.
I've never seen
So
it.
she's really a novice when it comes to movies. So Final Destination, she's never seen it. So maybe we can start those.
I've never seen like any movie, so
I saw the
first
two.
plot. You saw the first.
Them, I just forget.
Yeah, I saw the first 2, like the one where the ladder like breaks.
The third's the best one.
The third is the best one. Which one's the third?
Aren't there
It's not like an amusement park.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I saw the one where the survivor from the first one is like in a psych ward.
Yeah, and the second one, yeah.
Yeah, and the dude like gets out the house when there's a fire, and the ladder falls, and it stops, and then he takes a deep breath, and then it just takes his fucking eyeballs out.
Spoiler.
Don't worry. All right, Billy, anything you want to say? Shout out any movies, modeling, anything? I don't know. Brady be busy. I don't know what she be doing.
Guys, subscribe to my only. No, I'm just kidding.
That's
No.
next week's episode. We're having OnlyFans girls.
Oh, that's fire. What was I gonna say? Honestly, no, not really. I think I've just been like living my life in college. I'm excited to hopefully get back into the LRG circuit soon. I feel like this next season of Train Media is going to be insane. I think it's the best season that I've been a part of yet in terms of drama and gameplay. So it will be very, very exciting to watch. But yeah, it's definitely not the last you'll see of me. So definitely stay tuned. And yeah, that's all I really have to say.
All right. Well, thank you
for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on our podcast. It was amazing. Yeah, I think this was a great one.
It was.
All right. Well, take care. Hit me up whenever. Text me.
Yes. All right. I'll see you guys later.
All right,
Yeah.
later.
Bye.
All right. Oh, do I hit end stream? Look at my old ass. That's on live too.